So I'll introduce myself. I guess I need this mic. Right. Good.
Okay, we're recording.
Hello, everyone. My name is Diane Carter, and my business is called Diane's Eggs. And I'm located in Bonita. And I wanted to thank you all for inviting me here tonight to talk about chickens. So, talking to some of you beforehand, I hear that we have a lot of chicken people in the audience already. So, who has chickens here? Raise your hand. Great. And who is interested in having chickens? Raise your hand. Excellent, even better. Good. So before we start, I want to tell you that there are going to be 1,000,001 opinions about chickens, and you'll hear them all. And it's probably the same thing with plants and trees as well. You'll go on a different Facebook page and they'll insist that you do it this way, or you go here and they say, "Oh no, you must do it this way." But chickens are very resilient, and you really can't do too much wrong. So don't be afraid to jump in and start raising them. Now, the other thing that I want to tell you is once you've attended one of my classes, which you are tonight, I am your mentor for life. So you've got my phone number there. You can contact me. I'm local. You can come visit the farm, see what you need to do. If you're close enough to me, I'll even come over to your house and help you if need be. My goal is to get you started raising chickens. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. It teaches us so much about where our food comes from. And not only that, nothing ever goes to waste. Now, I know everybody here makes compost, but these guys make good compost too. It's very hot. Absolutely. You need to age it. And, but once you do, you've got some really fantastic stuff. And you are so noisy there, my dear. So yeah, she's very excited about being here. But nothing ever goes to waste. So all your leftover food that you have can go to the chickens. And it's a personal choice, but they are carnivorous. So if you have leftover meat or bones, so people say do feed them chicken, but it's a little like, they would eat it. But so they love grubs and worms. And what I do is called pasture raising, which means I let them out during the day. They all come in at night, or if I'm not there, because we are not fenced at the farm and we have coyotes and other predators. So I usually act like shepherd to them. And then I bring them into their coop with just some food. So we have to supplement with regular food too. But if you're feeding those kinds of things to them, the worms, the grubs, the weeds, all of that, and they're very happy to fend for themselves out there getting it. The eggs that you get will be wonderful. So let me encourage you a little. Not so much what their eggs will taste like, but the nutritional value of the eggs. So if you're feeding them, for my chickens, one of the things that I do is I supplement with alfalfa, a dark green leafy. It's actually a legume, but it's a dark green leafy vegetable. It is high in protein, and what it does, it makes for higher omega-3s in the eggs themselves. So if you are eating organic food and you give your scraps to the chickens, those eggs are going to be a higher quality eggs than if you feed them Chinese food or
Beautiful golden yolks.
exactly, beautiful golden yolks. Yes. They don't like celery. They eat onions. And they ate all my chili peppers that were chili pepper plants. So the plants themselves, they'll eat those. They will decimate your garden if you give them a chance. So beware. So you want to fence that off from them. But in terms of like quality eggs that you're going to get from them, you will get fantastic eggs. So put this down for a sec. And I want to just inspire you. This is one of the cartons of eggs that I had left over from today. I have 300 chickens. And I'll tell you a little bit about my story, how I grew. So yes. So this can be your goal, is to get something like this and be able to eat this way. Beautiful eggs. So I started just as many of you do. Yes, you had a question. They do eat eggshells, and if you're not careful, they will eat their own eggs. And you have to be very careful about this because if they eat their eggs, they love their eggs, and then pretty soon they tell the others that they're delicious. And so they all eat their eggs. So it's very bad, and they call them egg eaters. It's like, oh no, I've got an egg eater. You have to be really careful to not get egg eaters. There's little tricks you can do to bring them to have it, but they love those eggs. Yeah, well, because he's not going to get any eggs because they just let him eat it. They love them. They say to put a little red pepper on them, but they'll, you know, the best thing to do is to go out and collect a lot. Be diligent on your collection.
Supplements.
Yes.
Especially when you have a stuff.
And I don't see, a lot of people will feed eggshells as a calcium supplement, but I don't. I feed oyster shell because I don't want them to get in the habit that they, oh, this is tasty and oh, this smells like what I like. Yes, you had a question. I do. I have 3 roosters on the farm. Roosters are very good for protecting the flock and keeping order in the flock. And if like 2 chickens are fighting together, the rooster will jump in the middle of them and peck one in the head and break up the fight. They will lay down their life for their flock. So they will fight to the death if a predator comes to try and attack them. If a hawk is overhead, they let out a special cry that the other chickens know, and they'll go and hide. So you don't have to worry about predators when you have roosters. It's a big help. They are very, very protective. Yes.
Roosters aren't allowed in San Diego, huh?
No, well, San Diego County, yes.
Well,
Not cities, not allowed in San Diego City, nor in Chula Vista. So we'll talk a little bit about what you do if you get a rooster, what you can do. So yeah, that is one of the solutions. So we're going to talk now that we've convinced you that chickens are the way to go, and that you want to have them. Like I said, I want to encourage you that they are very resilient. There's not much you can do with them that will hurt them. So I started off, I worked for the federal government. I was in law enforcement. I was all over the country working different places. I got pretty high up in the organization. At one point, towards the end of my career, I was living away from home and trying to commute back and forth. It was really difficult. I was able to retire at 51. And when I came home, I was beat. I was heavy. I had gained a ton of weight. My husband had stayed here in San Diego. He was, from the time we were married, suffered with heart problems, but he was worse, had diabetes. And so we decided we'd change the way we ate and see if we could make ourselves feel a little bit. And so as a result, we did switch our diet. We went to more organic food, grass-fed meats. And as part of that, I started raising chickens because I wanted a better quality egg. So I started off with 12. Not a big deal. 12 is a really good number. But I was very afraid to try and raise them. So a friend actually raised them for me and gave them to me. And then I thought, well, geez, I'd like to add some more. But I didn't think I could ever raise them from chicks. And so I hired a lady to raise them for me and paid her $40 a hen in order to get them. Yes, and so that's why I'm telling you this, because there is no way that now you would believe that I have 300 hens, run my own egg business, and I'm licensed by the state of California as a small flock producer. So it's very doable. So don't be afraid about jumping in and raising chicks. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, because I get so many phone calls. And if you go to the first page of your book, you'll see there about my recommendations. So I get so many phone calls. Here is like my audience. My goodness, a heckler. That's my little heckler there. I get so many calls from people who say, do you have hens for sale? Do you have hens? And I go, oh, yeah, I do, but you don't want them because they're old. You don't want an old hen because you won't get many eggs from her. Yeah, you may get some in the spring because that's when they start producing, but you won't get a full lifetime of good egg production. So back east, you can find older hens, or not older hens, they're called ready to lay pullets. And pullet is the term for a female hen. And so you can find those back east, but not here in California. There's nothing. And people will sell you $60 chickens, and you don't know whether that chicken is really a year old or 2 years old. And if you get a 2-year-old chicken, you are not going to get very good production. So that leaves you one choice: chicks, to raise them up. They take about 5 to 6 months to raise. They're very simple to raise. And that's what we're going to be talking about here tonight, just how easy they are to raise. We have several different options right now. So my thing is I always buy my chicks from a hatchery. And the reason I do is I want female chicks. I don't want to deal with roosters. I don't want to grow them up and find out they're roosters like 3 or 4 months into the process. So I want hens. So I can contact a hatchery, order pullets, and know pretty much, I every once in a while get one, but pretty much know that I'm going to get female chickens. The kind of chicken, so they come in 3 different varieties. They come males, nobody wants those. Pullets, which are the females, and then there's a thing called straight run. And a lot of times people go, geez, what's straight run? It's cheaper. Well, straight run means it's anybody's guess what they are. You have a 49% chance they're roosters. So if you can get pullets, that's what you want. Now, the best way to get to know for certain that you're going to be getting a female chicken is to get a sex link variety. And the sex link variety, they can tell them because of the color at birth. So like if you get a golden sex link, that means that the females are yellow, the males are black. So you know right away that you're getting a female. But let's talk a little bit about where you can get them at. So I have listed my favorite hatcheries. My favorite one is Murray McMurray. They're back, most of these places are back east. There's a local one in Fresno that I listed on there called Belt Hatchery. Right now, there's a big run on chickens. After this egg shortage, everybody is trying to become more self-sufficient. And I applaud them for it. I think everybody should try and do this, because not only is it good for the quality of the egg you get, it's good for the environment in terms of waste. It's good for your plants and the soil in terms of the manure that you're going to be getting, and they're aerating the soil as they dig it up. We're going to pull her out in a minute so you can hold her. So I've listed my favorite hatcheries. Right now, though, it's very difficult to find chickens at the hatcheries. So you might wait several months to do so. I do have one person that I listed there, Rosie Diaz. She is a local person in Bonita, and she will hatch on demand. So, or incubate on demand. So what you'll do is you tell her, I want 12 chicks, and she will put chicks in her incubator. In 21 days, you're going to get chicks. Whether you get, it's anybody's guess. Whether you get hens or roosters. Like we say, 49% chance of roosters. The nice thing about her hens, and if you choose to use her, is that they are from my flock. So that she has got from my flock. So they're a salmon favorel rooster, which is a dual purpose bird. That means he's big and can be used for meat, and my commercial layers. So what you'll get is you'll get large, good layers that if you get roosters, if you choose to do so, you could raise them up and use them for meat. And if you do get roosters, I have several solutions for you with that as well. There's 3 Facebook groups that I put in your book there where you can post that you have roosters and people will take them from you. And you can kind of talk to the people if it disturbs you that they're going to be used for food. Then you can talk to the people and find one that will just want it as like a protector or something like that. So there are ways around it. Yes.
So how long, you said you get checks every time, how long? How many years?
Oh. Before you pick up more chick. Oh, me?
Oh, well, if we had,
Sorry, yes.
for me, about 3 years to this.
See, that's late.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's late. Commercial places only keep their hens 18 months. So that is not very long. I mean, that is their life. So what they do, it's a first in, first out system. FIFO for those accounts in the group.
Right.
So they go and they run it on a schedule. So here comes the first group, 18 months, the next one's starting at the same time these ones go into lay. Get rid of those to the bone broth man. The next group goes in. And so it's continual that they have it going. And this is what they do, 18 months. And at 18 months, I keep mine longer because at 18 months, they may start laying every other day. Well, I can live with that. But at 3 years, you're not getting it. You'll get it in the spring. You'll get good laying in the spring, but come fall and winter, you'll get nothing.
With the disease kind of wiped out, so we take it. With
Yes.
And some of those, you know, that they were not able to.
No, they're just continuing on doing their replenishing thing. And that's why there was such a shortage there as well, because they just weren't ready for it. Yes, you have a question?
That's the problem. I would say I can never bring months.
I have a terrible time bringing myself to get rid of them.
Well, and we've been, especially growing up with kids, they all had names.
Yes.
We only had 3 or 4 at a time. And so it was impossible.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And well, I keep a lot of them that I shouldn't keep because I am like you. So I'm feeding freeloaders. Yeah, they're family. That's the bad thing. I do sell some and I sell them to people that want older chickens. So I sell them for like $10. Now, some people are using them for food, but most are using them for like a companion chicken, or we want to add the kids or grandkids. Oh, they lay in the spring, you know, this kind of thing. That's the only way I've been able to really get rid of my flock. And I'm going to have to be heartless soon and get rid of some of them because, and then, you know, fortunately, some of them just pass away, which is good too. And they will. But the longest living chicken has lived till for 10 years, they say. So I hope mine don't. Because they are freeloaders at that point. I know exactly what you mean. I grew up in the city too, so I don't know. I don't butcher. I used to always give them to a guy who would go, "Oh, mole." And I'd go, "I'm not thinking about that." They lived a very nice life while they were with me. So absolutely a problem. So let's talk about how to raise chicks. But first, before I do that, let's talk about breeds. Because I want you to be able to meet the chickens. So this is a leghorn chicken. This is probably your greatest producer. They call it a 300 egg a year layer, meaning they lay almost every day. Look how small they are. They were originated in Italy. So they have this big comb for a warmer climate. Poor thing, she's covered with mud because she was out in the mud today. So she doesn't look very nice. Usually they're pure white. She actually is pure white. She just has a little dirty looking. But they are the best little layers you've ever seen. They're small, so they don't eat much. They are what every commercial producer wants. They produce big, huge white eggs. And sometimes they produce eggs and I look at them and I go, how did this dinosaur egg come out of this little tiny chicken? But they do. And remember that the color of the egg does not affect the taste. It's what you feed the chicken affects the taste. So a white egg is no different than a brown egg, is no different than a green egg, is no different than a blue egg. And why I sell colored eggs is just because of the pretty look to them in the package. You know, there's something when somebody opens it up, it looks like candy in there. And so it's a gift. And a lot of times, and what I tell people too is when you go to get chickens, if you can, it's no more difficult to get 12 than it is to, or raise 12 than it is to raise 6. So if you can raise 12, because you'll have plenty for your family and you'll have some to give away every now and then because it makes a lovely gift. So for those of you who've never held chickens, I'm going to show you how. You hold them right up against your heart, put your hand over their wings so they feel safe, and they feel your heart beat, and they feel you holding them tight. They feel like they're under their mother. So can I start with you? There you go. She loves to be petted and held. So Pinky is a Leghorn chicken. My first recommendation for you to get Leghorn chickens. Now, the problem with, can you all hear me okay if I'm not on the microphone? Okay. The problem with a Leghorn chicken is they tend to be skittish. They tend to be kind of standoffish. They tend to not like you. And who wants chickens if you can't enjoy them as pets? So the secret is you start handling them from an early age. If you've got kids, let them play with the chicks. Play with the chicks all the time. Pick them up, put them down. The more you touch them and play with them, the better. They turn into lovely, friendly little animals. They're social, so they accept you as part of their flock, and they become a joy to have instead of when you go in that they're pecking at you or flying at you or something like this. Instead, they're happy to see you, and they know your name, they know their names. They say chickens can recognize faces. They know up to 25 words. I have a rooster that absolutely loves my husband. He tells him every day he wants to be let out of the coop, and he follows him around talking to him. It's the funniest thing ever. So it's all about really handling them and being friendly with them is going to give you that relationship. So let's talk about, now I didn't bring one to show you, but there is the second type of chicken that I recommend is a red star, an amber star. This is all the same kind. It's a brown layer, Isa brown, but they all kind of fall under the same category. They are commercial. Golden sex link is another one. They all follow under this same umbrella of a commercial brown layer. They lay a lot of eggs, and they are very sweet, docile birds. Again, handle them a lot, and you will get a nice little hen. Now, our last one here is probably sleeping now. Yeah, she goes, oh, I guess I have to go to sleep. Here you go. Okay, this is an Americana. So like I always say that it's fun to have, it's nice to have birds that will give you lots of eggs, but it's also nice to have some that are just pretty, that are friendly, and that lay the colored eggs. So she is a green layer. Now, on an colored layers always show themselves in one way, usually here. I said always and usually. But when you see this fluffy face on a chicken, see the difference here? That got the little fluffy whiskers, the little fluffy beard. Those are colored egg layers. So if you see that, you'll know that those will lay colored eggs. And so they'll lay your green eggs or your blue eggs. And they tend to be really sweet, docile little birds. So let's see. Who would like to start with? Her name is Gigi. Who would like to start holding Gigi? You again? Here we go. Have your bird. And you'll see the difference with the comb too. Much smaller. They originated in a colder climate. And there's no way you can hurt them. They're just very tough. And if they get away from you, you can easily pick them up. Not difficult at all.
Your own thoughts will follow you around,
Yes.
especially when you're having upgrades or doing rolls or
Yes.
other stuff.
Oh, he is an expert at chicken raising. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about what you need to raise a chicken. Because that's the scary part. So I'm going to put this right up here so you can all see. So The first thing that you're gonna need is you're gonna need like a big tote like this. So once you get your chicks, and you can either get, if you get it from a hatchery, they come in the mail to the post office. And the post office will call you, and you'll go down to the post office, and the post office will be full of peeping noises. Loud peeping noises, and they come in a box about this big. They're tiny, and like 25 of them in a little box like that. And as you open up the box, when you get it home, it's like a clown car. Here come all these chicks. So you're going to be prepared with this. So you will need a tote. You'll need some kind of heat. Drop everything here. So this is a heat lamp. And you can get most of this equipment online or at Tractor Supply. This is a heat lamp and very reasonable. You buy the lamp, I think it's like $9.99, and the bulbs are like $9.99. They last you forever. You just put it, and you put it up on something secure, and you put it so it's not touching it. And plug it in, and then you're going to watch. Now you want to keep your first week at 95 degrees, but it's not that critical. You don't have to be super scientific with a thermometer. You can tell by how the chicks react. If they're all huddled together underneath the heat lamp, they're cold. So move it down a little closer. If they're all over in the corner and away from the heat lamp, they're warm. Move it up a little higher. So it's very easy to tell. Now, if you want to get a little more fancy, this is like a heat pad that you can use, and it works two ways. It can work vertically, just put it in there, and if they're cold, they huddle up against it. If they're hot, they stay away from it. Or you can put it down flat, and it's got like that much room underneath it, and they'll all huddle underneath it like they would be under a mother hen. I tend to like just using it vertically because I like to be able to see what's happening with the chicks. If they're all underneath there, I don't know how they're doing. And I want to be able to see that they're doing well. Now, the main thing is that what do you put on the bottom of your box? In the past, I always use shred, like pine shred, or they've got paper shred you can put in there. The problem with doing that is that they kick. That I go, it's amazing. That's a chicken behavior, is the scratching. And they know to do it even from chicks. And I go, it's amazing. Their mother is a light bulb, and they still know to do that scratching behavior. And they scratch, and they get all their shred into their water, and it absorbs all their water, and then they can't drink. So then I tried towels, but I was washing towels every day. So I have found the solution: puppy pads. I put a puppy pad here in the bottom. The light, I can easily throw it away every single day. I'm only doing it for a few weeks. Not bad. So that's my secret. Now, you're also going to need a waterer and a feeder. And these you can buy online, super cheap. This is the one for the food with the little holes. This is the one for the water. Just put them in, keep food in there all the time, keep water in there all the time, and check them twice a day to make sure they're doing fine. That's as easy as it gets. I brought here a couple of other things you could see. This is another kind of waterer, just in case you see this. I tried them. It is, yeah, it's got a float here. I tried it. I wasn't thrilled. I use this because I get more chicks at a time. And so I tend to use these because they hold more places for their feet. Yeah, you can. And I like them. They're very easy to fill and take care of. They're probably a little easier to fill than these ones. Now, the other thing that you want to do is at about 2 weeks. So 95 degrees to start. And I've included all this in your book too. 95 degrees to start. Every week you lower it by 10 degrees. But about the second week, you're going to start noticing that they're starting to lose their little down, and they're starting to get feathers. They're starting to get even more active, and they start jumping on their waterer and their feeder, and they'll jump out. So what I do then is and actually, I started right from the beginning. I go down to Walmart and I buy the net. It's in the fabric department, like tulle or netting that you use for fabric. And I just buy a yard of it and I put it over the top and just clothespin it on. And I've got a couple of different kind of clips here. And so I can see them underneath there. They can't get out because once they jump out, they can't jump back in. There we go. And so you want to make sure that they're safe and being able to be raised in there. Once they're feathered, you can start to think about putting them outside. So I love it. They're so good. They're so happy. They love to be held. It's so funny. So once you've raised them up like 2-3 weeks, you can start thinking about putting them outside. So you will need a coop. Now, you can find coops all over the place. A lot of you already have coops. What I have done is I've used dog kennels. I buy big dog kennels. They're made out of chain link fence and I cover them with chicken wire over the top of them and I just hog ring clamp it on. It's the easiest way of doing it and it's relatively inexpensive. And I sometimes will have a little coop, like a hen house in there, and sometimes not, just nesting boxes for the chickens to have. Because here in San Diego, we have really good weather. So it's not as necessary that they be covered all the time. They need to have shade and they need to have something to protect them from the water, but they don't need necessarily a big house and a run. You can get away with just a run and some kind of covering or protection for them and a place where they can lay their eggs. So for laying eggs, you're going to need nesting boxes and those can be anything. They can be buckets on the side. We were talking earlier about using milk crates. Those work great to do nesting boxes. You can buy nesting boxes online. I have several different things. I have I have 2 big coops. I have one that has just boxes that we've made out of wood that they can go in and lay their eggs in. I have one in the other coop that I bought that's a big fancy one that hangs on the side and they go in there and they roll into little drawers. It's very nice. At first the chickens weren't that crazy about it. They like the old-fashioned way of laying in the wood box, but now they've gotten used to it. They are using it, so that's good. But they tend to like their privacy when laying, but they want to all lay in the same box. So it's like nesting box wars. They will fight each other over the box. They love, oh, you laid here, I need to lay here. Let me peck you in the head and get you out of the box. But they end up laying in the boxes and you will have your boxes will be full of eggs. So you don't need a box for every chicken, a nesting box. If you have 12 chickens, 4 boxes is fine. So, and they'll be perfectly happy with that. The other thing that they like as they get older is for sleeping, they like to be on a high perch. That's their favorite way. And they love to sleep close together. So at night, during the day, they're not that keen on being always close together. At night, they love being close together. And so put in some high perches. If you can find branches or something like that, that's always nice. A way for them to be up high. And let's see. Oh, perfect. In she goes. So at about between 4 and 5 months, you will start getting eggs. So that's all it takes to raise up from chicks to adults. It's very doable for you. So do we have any questions? Yes.
What kind of common illnesses are there that might affect their chicks besides like avian flu?
Avian flu is from wild birds, which amazes me because I have open coops and I have wild birds and none of my chickens have got sick. So I think that avian flu is more from crowding and those kind of conditions than so much from wild birds. We were plagued here for a number of years in Southern California with Newcastle disease. was very bad because, but that came from what they call traveling chickens, but it came from fighting chickens. So,
Somebody talks.
Fighting cocks. And they were just calling them traveling chickens. I go, what's traveling chickens? And finally somebody goes, it's fighting chickens. I go, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Yes.
So we have to have pastures at 8.
No,
no,
good question. Excellent question, because everybody always thinks that. You don't need a rooster to have eggs. Yeah, oh, for fertile eggs, you need to have a rooster. Right. You do need a rooster if you want fertile eggs. And for if you do want fertile eggs and to incubate, it's quite a process. So for incubation, what you do is you get that fertile egg and it has to be raised to a certain temperature and humidity. That's the same thing as why it sits underneath the hen. It has to be that way in the incubator. If it doesn't happen, those eggs lose their fertility. They won't hatch. And there's no part of a fertile egg to it. They have to be turned. A mother hen will turn her eggs 50 times a day. So, well, that now the incubators have off. You need an automatic turner in your incubator because otherwise they wouldn't be viable.
Right.
Yeah. And you were asking more about diseases. Probably the biggest thing are respiratory diseases. And they'll start like getting swollen eyes or kind of like nasal discharge. When you see that, you just separate them from the rest of them. And then if they're eating and drinking, they will recover.
Yeah.
That's the secret. No matter, and then sometimes when you get older hens, it's called being egg bound. They get an egg stuck in them, and they'll just puff up and they'll look miserable. And I usually remove them, put them aside, see if they'll eat and drink. If they eat and drink and can pass that egg, they'll survive and do fine. And I have a little leghorn that's had it several times with being egg bound and still has recovered. Oh yeah, good. Very happy with you there. Yes.
There's an answer. Regular bullets out here, no one's selling them.
Nobody's selling it. Nobody's selling
Raise your own.
Oh, if people would do it, it would be great. The problem is the darn feed is so high to raise them up to that point that nobody wants to do it. It just isn't viable financially because you have to sell those ready to lay pullets here for like $60 or something, $40 to $60 to make it worth their while to do so. And nobody wants to. Although some people like me who did.
I paid 40 for my chickens. Yeah, there's always one in every bunch, right? That was me. Yes.
How about acclimating your chicks with our pet?
Very good question.
Yeah.
So if you have dogs, cats, other kinds of animals, can be difficult to do. So first of all, you have them in a coop. And so that creates the barrier between the predator and the chicken. There's a saying that says, eyes on the side meant to hide, eyes in the front meant to hunt. So chickens, eyes on the side, they're prey animals. All your other pets have their eyes in the front, they're hunters. So they're the predators. And it's just built into them that, and I always say everybody loves chicken, right? So the best thing to do is to start getting them used to them, being around them. Then start to gradually take the chicken out and kind of let them mix under your supervision. That's probably the best way of doing it. But also, if you have other chickens and you've raised up chicks, you are so busy, quiet. See, she was only happy when she was being held. Please hold me. But if you have other chickens and you're putting in new chickens, that can be bad too, because have you heard the term pecking order? It came from chickens. They fight to see who's going to be in charge, and they will be terrible. They sometimes will kill each other. That will be so bad. So if you do that, the best thing to do, he's going to talk to her, then she'll be happy. The best thing to do is to put them near each other, the two different groups, the two flocks. Put them so they see each other, or the babies next to the grown-ups. And that was how I raised them. I have babies in one dog kennel, and I have door and full-grown chickens in the other. And so they see each other and they kind of think that they're part of the same flock. And by the time you open the door, when they're old enough, it's no big deal. But if you do introduce chickens to other chickens, the best thing to do is give them a lot of room, put in branches and leaves for them to hide around so they don't get attacked and they can run away and hide. And the other thing is feed. So put out lots of food so the other chickens are kind of like, oh, we're eating instead of attacking. Yeah, oh, we're eating and hopefully, you know, oh, now we're all eating. Oh, I guess you're my sister. And they will join together that way. Yeah. The other thing that people worry about is do chickens bring rats? Chickens don't bring rats. What brings rats are chicken food. They love the chicken food. So the secret is to not have a problem with rats, keep your chicken food in metal garbage cans. And the other thing is feeding. Don't free feed. Now you'll be free feeding your chicks, but you're going to be doing that in a brooder, which is what this is. When they become big enough, what does she do? Pretty soon she'll jump out, right? And she's part of the entertainment here. There you go. So what feed them the correct amount, just feed them the correct amount. They'll eat it all up and you won't have rats. So the correct amount, 1/4 of a cup per chicken. So not very much. That is the optimal amount for them to lay eggs. Now, a lot of times people will go, oh, but you know, I've got all this food and I feed them, and you have to be careful. Don't feed them too much. They don't need all that much food. And the other thing that's interesting is when I first started, I thought you had to give them scratch. So I'd buy food and I'd buy scratch. Well, scratch is corn, and on the bag of the scratch, it says, oh, it encourages pecking chicken-like behaviors. I go, oh, yes, I must buy this. Well, they loved it because to them, it's like candy. I was feeding them a big treat every day, making them fat and giving them all fatty livers. So who knew? But they all lived anyway. And that's why I say, no matter what you do, there's not much you can do that's going to harm them or kill them. They're very, very resilient, and they will live through all your mistakes that you make with them. And they will love you despite it. So they're fun little pets. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So here's my tip.
I think, oh, she said, could you go away and leave them? Yes, you can. That's the beauty of chickens. So I say, first of all, it's no more difficult to raise 12 than it is to raise 6. If you, Chula Vista, I know only allows 6. But if you can, if where you're living and you can raise 12, raise 12. It's a perfect amount. You can go away for up to 2 weeks, leave food. That's when you're going to free feed. Your neighbors will hate you, but that's okay. Leave the food out, leave plenty of water, like in a big dog water or a float kind of thing. They will be fine. And if you want, you can get somebody to come in once in a while to pick up the eggs. But you can easily go away.
140.
Yes.
If you have dogs, and you're gonna let your chickens out, beware. The dogs will have to roll in.
Chicken poop. Chickens poop every 20 minutes too. Dogs also like to eat it.
Yes.
So, and it makes the dog, usually will make the dog sick. Which, you know, doesn't make any sense that they want to eat it and it makes them sick. So yes, very good advice. Any other questions? Yes.
Oh. It's not a bad business. So I got alfalfa hay, you know, alfalfa sprouts would be wonderful, alfalfa plants. You just spread out. And I think if we continually do that, regrowing as well. And yes. When you live alone, like say you're going on vacation for a couple of weeks, you're going to be good at food. We're going to do a city, we're going to have one more to get to. So, and When you live in the house, say in your backyard to just graze and, forage for food. Scratch, get rid of things, having little rocks and stuff, they just stay out in the yard. If you do that, you're gonna either be there with them or you're gonna have a fenced yard that will protect them. Because, yeah, at least you have some place that's shady for them to go under the wash, usually some, every backyard has a bush or something that they can go under for shade. Make sure you put water out for them, like, so they can go out, so they can run back in if they need to. Yes. I remember when I first started raising chickens, I read something and it's so true. Is that when you raise chickens, you have to realize that sometimes they're going to die terrible deaths. And it's so true. It's awful. I've had, everything's fine, and then we get attacked by coyotes, and they have a 4-foot hole, and Diane and and they, it was I had a raccoon get it, when I had babies, I had 500 chicks, and wiped them out like 50 of them. Just massacred them and left them on the ground. It just was heartbreaking. So you have to understand that this is part of it. You can't be prepared. So if you have chain link, understand that the birds are so friendly that even at night, if a coyote comes through, they'll go up to see it because they're used to you, who looks like a predator, who gives them wonderful treats. So they'll go up and stick their head through and the coyote will bite their head off. So everything that is coyote height, like so, up about this high, chicken wire over the top of the chain link. Down the sides of your coop, when you're getting it set up, put some chicken wire, as I say, hog ring it on. Does everybody know what hog rings are?
No.
Best tool ever. They are like little C clamps, and they have a special plier, and they just go clamp it on, and it's almost like stapling. It's so much easier than trying to wire things on. So hog ring your chicken wire on, bring it down, have it go kind of at an angle out, cover that with dirt, and that'll keep the coyotes from digging in, or the dogs.
The hog wire holds in the flyer.
Yeah, the hog wire holds in the plier, and then you and you just like squeeze it on. Yes.
I read this online. Experiences, but the thing about chicken wire is raccoons can reach through it, and a person I read about a hunting will reach through it. They will just number a chicken through the barbed wire.
Hardware cloth is hardware cloth is the best thing you can use. It tends to be more expensive. It is a lot more expensive. And we have reinforced everything along the bottom with rocks and everything else. And in some places where, yes. Perfect. Remember, I'm your mentor for life. Yes. Do we clean them? No, they clean themselves. They take dust pads, and it almost looks like something's wrong with them. They dig a little hole, and pretty soon on their back, and you go, what is wrong? Is it dying here? No, anything. Cleaning themselves up. So as soon as she gets it out where it's dry, that's what she'll be doing tomorrow. Cleaning herself up. Yes. You don't have room for a chicken coop? Oh, that's a hard thing.
They're use one for
I bought mine on Craigslist. Yep. I do have a lot out of him. Yes. Oh, okay, that is a very good question. A chicken coop for 4 chickens. So, I have one I bought on Craigslist. I use it for demonstrations. When I use it, I do farm tours at my farm for kids and families. And so we start off with holding and petting chickens. And so I put 4 of them in this coop, and it's probably about from here to maybe here. So it's not overly big. Now, that's fine for them to live in and sleep in, but you're going to want to let them out. And you can either do that in a fenced run, if you're have a nice garden and you don't want to ruin everything. Just put like a dog kennel run that they can run around in. Or you can let them out in your backyard during the day and put them in at night. Yes. What's the question? Really? How concerned do you need to be? They do poop every 20 minutes, but 12 chickens is not much. Now, what I do with my coops is I use mulch. So, I've got the dirt and then a layer of mulch. And what I like about mulch is, and I use kind of big, fat, wood mulch. Because they've got that natural behavior of scratching. So they poop, they scratch, it falls down through, and it binds with that mulch to make it very, not much set to it. And actually increase the soil underneath it. So it works really well. Yes.
I do about 4 inches, 4 to 5 inches. Now, the other thing is with 300 chickens, I also clean every day. So, and I've got big, huge boxes because I have horses too. So I have big, huge boxes for composting the manure. I have a lot of compost.
I do. Yes. These are chickens. They were their own list. She loved you.
You have chickens, don't you?
No.
No?
I did not yet.
So you're a chicken whisperer. Oh my goodness, she loved her. Oh, I love that girl. So
You don't have to really be really concerned. They don't fly, they weren't jump. Now, they probably could jump up to 5 feet, but I have 4-foot fences around my property when I let them out. I have 2 coops. I have one that's in my backyard, and I've got some chain link fence around the outside. And they don't jump up on it. They stay close to their coop and just kind of stay around the backyard.
If you don't have a coop that they can go into at night, you can expect them to be up in the trees somewhere.
oh, they will.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They
And if-
listen to the trees.
And they love to be up high, especially for night, for sleeping. So that's when they go up in the tree, or if by accident you didn't get somebody in, you'll find them on top of the coop, or because they go, oh, they don't want to be out.
It's the source for food, as well as tractor supply and water.
Yeah, for the feeding, tractor supply at Walmart. Probably the best bets. Do you have a question? Yes. I was thinking about that. I also tried raising mealworms. I had a terrible time with mealworms. I thought that would be great. I'm always looking for a good way to get my food cheaper. That's the big thing for me is the feed. And so I've experimented a lot. A lot of people ferment their feed, which makes it go farther, and it's good for the chickens. I just have too many to be able to do that. They put just water over it, and it puffs it up and actually makes it ferment. Yeah. No, you can actually do it with the pellets too. They'll ferment the pellet seed. Yes. They were pretty much all made by the same company, which was a surprise to me. Unless we're dealing with a local mill, which we don't have down here. Like there is Modesto Milling, if you want to go high grade, wonderful seed. Sierra Milling makes good, and they're over in LA. So some of the local mills, they're good quality, but most of your regular store-bought feed is probably named after me. Just under a different name. So it's all about the same thing. Yeah. Yes.
I'm trying to get my food scraps and stuff like supermarkets.
Yes. No, I can't get them from the supermarket. But where I get them from is the food bank. So,
The food bank has been fantastic because if things are past dated or just like on their last day, they can't give them to anybody. And so they call me up and I go get it. And the other thing that they love, which has been fantastic too, is Halloween. I go over to the pumpkin patch after they love pumpkins.
Yes.
I got 200 pumpkins this year after Halloween and they ate on them until January. So it was fantastic. They love it, and they're so good for them. They're eating a ton of beta carotene. It's turning their yolks this gorgeous orange color. Just so good.
yes. Oh, I'm right here. No.
You know, it's so good. I never named anybody until, yeah, did I name all the 300 names? No, I never named anybody. And in fact, we only had one that had a name and it was Chickadee, who was our rooster. And I got him off of Craigslist and he came with a name and baby pictures. So he was very loved and he is the sweetest thing. So he was handled a lot. He's really nice, but he was the only one who had a name. But then as I started doing the farm tours, I started naming certain ones. So, but they're always dumb names because they're like descriptive of them. So Pinky has a pink band and Gigi stands for gray girl because she's gray. And so I just name them by their color. Red, bird, yeah, I mean, they're just like dopey names.
So I only said publicly, I've been raised since the 70s.
Mhm.
I had 3 roosters. They all started out little children, and they still nice, but
Turned into vicious, horrible ones. Yeah, that has been my experience with roosters too. And I have rooster stories for you. Oh, they were horrible. Right now I'm blessed because I have 3 sweet roosters that will eat out of your hands. And so what my thing is, I tell everybody who comes to my farm, we only allow nice animals on the farm. If they're not, out they go. Soup. Mole. Yes. No, but we have one named Mr. Kellogg's who looks just like the Kellogg's cornflake rooster. You had a question?
start.
Yes.
My chickens from around the backyard, neighbor across the street, was not getting a monkey.
Oh.
So we brought them up, was killing the bird.
Oh, yes.
I got the TV picture big and I made a frame 6 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot, a little door on the end. Wrapped with chicken wire. And then I would put the chickens in there. I let it eat for a while. Then I would just push it, the TV is white section, which they would clean up above. And I would do that back and forth, and that was the same.
Brilliant. And you know what? That's called a chicken tractor. And usually they're giant because they hold like, they use them for meat, pasture-raised meat chickens and certain pasture-raised laying chickens. But they have hundreds in there. What a great idea to use that for just a small group. And it's ideal because it keeps them contained. You can move them to the weeds, get rid of those weeds, move them to the next weed, weed abatement. They love them. Yes.
That you bring your chickens together. I had 2 chickens, 1 house. And the chickens should not be alone. So I got another chicken for it. And unfortunately, plenty of food, plenty of water. Unfortunately, the chicken that was there just went and attacked the new chicken.
Yeah.
And he started to get bad. So I got out the broom.
Uh-huh.
And I chased the established chicken with the broom.
Did it work?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Chased them around the coop a couple of times. They were both so afraid of the broom. When you're chased. That after that, I just put the broom by the door. Now, that's right there by the way.
And you know what you did there? You acted as though that would be the same thing as if you had a rooster in the coop
Yeah.
that was taking charge. Like I said, when they fight, here he comes, jumps in the middle, and he figures out which one is the naughty one and puts it in the head. And
That's a good thing. I know, my. They don't fool around.
Do you have to vaccinate your chickens in order to be like?
No, I do not. I do not have to vaccinate. I do recommend though, that if you're going to, if you have the option of getting a Merrick's vaccination for your chicks, go ahead and do it. Because Merrick's is not going to hurt them in the long run, but I don't have to vaccinate, huh? I'm not sure what's in it. But it's, they're getting it as babies, so I don't think it's going to affect the quality of the egg. And it protects them, so they won't, it's Merrick's disease. It's one that'll wipe them out and just kill them.
Okay,
Mhm.
what if the Newcastle?
Newcastle, there is vaccines for it, but it's complicated vaccine. It takes like 3 different times. It's not worth doing. And I don't vaccinate because I want to keep my eggs kind of as pure as I can get. Being licensed. So if any of you are interested in licensing, which is kind of a thing in itself, the state requires we do a couple of things. The state requires that we use always fresh egg cartons. The state requires that we wash the eggs, and the state requires that we tell people they have to refrigerate. And after 36 hours, we're required to refrigerate. So I don't refrigerate until 36 hours, but I never have that. I never refrigerate because I'm always selling. So they're getting unrefrigerated eggs. And we're the only country in the world that refrigerates our eggs. So, No. And in France, they have them on the shelves.
Here's the thing.
Mhm.
You're vaccinate if you're taking them nothing every day, then I'm having, you're not having that food. So you put those eggs, but there's a coating on it. It's called the balloon. There's a coating on it. And then if you wash your egg, well, then you should be refrigerating your eggs.
If you wash them, you need to refrigerate them.
What it does is if you wash them, they're not going to last as long. It will still last a month because they're fresh. And if you don't wash them, you'll last even longer. Yes. No problem in the winter. Those feathers are like little insulation. Yeah, it's amazing. They do just fine. You want to have some kind of covering for them so that they will not get wet. So that they have a place to hide out from the rain, but the cold doesn't bother them. Back east, it will, and they keep them in hen houses back east because of the snow. But here, we're fine. Just to go over the heads, yeah. What I have for my big coop, I'm in a barn, and I'm on. So they're on the back side of the barn, so they have a wall, and they have a half a roof that comes over them. And that's enough to keep them warm. Their perches are all up high against the wall. So that wall acts as a windbreak and enough of a shelter for them. And then the roof over the head. Yes.
Yes.
So, different, hatcheries that you mentioned, although which ones actually do have the option of getting a nurse.
So there's vaccination, they're all different.
They don't. Like in our household, they don't.
Oh, they don't do it anymore. That's where they're using doesn't do it.
They don't, or at least they don't order.
But they don't order the
They
vaccine.
don't order. Chicks from the,
Vaccinated.
yeah.
Marina Murray does. Bruce does. I think that does. I ordered some several years ago. I can't remember if I got enough, if they did or not. I was always totally against vaccinations, and I actually was against a lot of things. I was against vaccinations, I was against cages, I was against all these different things. And in 21, because I wanted to improve the quality and quantity of eggs that I got from my green and blue layers. And I found a poultry geneticist in Colorado, Dr. Whiting, and he had these blue and green layers that he had developed. So they were whiting true blues and whiting true greens. And I go, I want these chickens. And Murray McMurray carried them, but they were back ordered for over a year. So I contacted Dr. Whiting and actually drove out overnight in my Kia to Colorado and brought back 500 chicks.
And it was the most interesting thing I'd ever seen. He's a poultry geneticist and he specializes in feathers. So if any of you do fly fishing or have seen lures, any that come from any part of the world, they're probably using his feathers. So he was meeting with people from China that evening, and he took me on a 3-hour tour. He showed me his whole operation. He was so transparent about it. He had all his chickens in cages, and it really made me feel very differently about them because they were probably maybe 4 times this size. They had a rooster and 5 hens in them. And he came around and was, petting them and talking to them, and everything was absolutely spotless because they can get rid of the manure that way. And so I go, wow, that really made me rethink things. And he was the one who talked to me about the Merrick's vaccination. And he said that as far as he was concerned, it wouldn't affect the quality of the egg because it was done when they were babies. And it's so awful to have them all die from that. And he says, frankly, he's mad that the places, the hatcheries charge as much as they do because you can get 1,000 doses of the Merrick's vaccine for pennies. I mean, it's just ridiculously cheap, but they will charge you like, I don't know, 50 cents a vaccine or $1 a vaccine to do it. But he says it is worth doing. And so based on that, I changed my philosophy on that and started vaccinating for Merrick's when they're babies. That's when they come, but that's the only vaccine I give. Mhm. Yes.
No, they don't mind it at all. It's just, I feel bad for them. They love it because they drink from the puddles. They're so resilient. That's why I think it's really interesting.
They don't seem to mind it at all. They walk through the mud and they drink from the muddy puddles. And it's me that's going, oh, you poor little things, you're all dirty. Oh, you're wet. And they don't seem to mind at all. Yes. Yes, good point. Molting. So you'll go probably about a year and then they will molt. They will lose all their feathers. And during that time, they won't lay any eggs. Now, the interesting thing about molting too is that each chicken is kind of on its own schedule as far as molting goes. Some take longer, some go through it really quick. But during that time, no eggs. The best thing you can do for them is supplement with more protein to help them regain those feathers. And then once they get their new feathers in, they start laying again, and it's like a fresh start for them. Although they do look horrible. I tell you, I do these farm tours for families, and I sometimes when they're molting, I go, oh, I'm ashamed. It looks like I'm a chicken abuser or something. They look horrible. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it looks like. All these feathers. Uh-huh. Pretty much, yep. That's that 18 months.
Like 13 months or something like that.
Yep.
And then when it stops, then
Oh.
survive.
Mm-hmm. But Steve, they still have another good year of egg laying in them.
But they're out of commission for how many months?
Depends. They can be my Americanas, they take a long time. They're lazy layers and lazy molters. They're sweet birds, but they're not real productive. That's why I wanted to get those Whiting True Blues and Whiting True Greens. And truly, the best. I'm very happy with them. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And I have been replenishing my flock with them. So,
More easily.
they're available through Murray McMurray. So anyway, he provided a lot of the stock for Murray McMurray, and so I started buying from them for replenishing. Although I'd like to go back and see him again and buy another big load like I did.
Those ones are not lazy layers.
They're not lazy layers. No, they're great.
So you get true green eggs.
They are, yeah, you get a true green and a true blue. The blue is a very light.
I don't know if you can see this here. I'm going to show this. The green is, it's not an olive. It's actually kind of a, well,
So I can show you here.
True blue.
what's that?
Are they blue purpose birds?
No,
There's a,
they're really layers.
they're later.
That's
They-
so,
That's a great. They got these, they lost this, and we got it. So,
that's Leghorns.
Like,
No, they were based on Leghorn. So only the notch.
she's like, it's even.
For men, so generous that when I came back with 500, like I said,
When I'm in IKEA,
came back with 500 baby chicks all stacked up in boxes in the back, peep, 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 the whole way, 14 hours. And so I had 500 of them. I sold 300 and kept 200 for the flock. I loved it. But he was so generous to me, in showing me everything and being so transparent that I felt like he really set me on a good path. And so when I sold these chicks, I did the same thing. I said, if you get because they'd all been sexed, I go, if you get a rooster, you bring him back and we'll swap him out for a hen. And I only had one come back, and it's my lovely Mr. Tubby Rooster who follows my husband around. Yes.
When you were going.
yes, I would be happy to come back on a ball. That would be good, because since I'm your mentor for life, let me know,
Because like I have chicks coming in June, and I'm happy to increase my order if, if we have times or whatever. Absolutely. And then that's great because it brings the price down for you as well.
So you have so many, what do you think of your chickens after 2 years?
Oh, I sell them.
I come for like $5.
I think they go to people's.
You just said, chickens, whatever.
Yeah, it's the old chickens. And in your book, you see there's 3 Facebook groups here in San Diego. They're wonderful. You just put it on there and you put small rehoming fee and just like, $5, and people will say. So, I don't know if they're using them for food or if they're, some people just for chicken burgers. That's medical. Here. I thought, yes.
You wanna buy one that's ready, and you wanna get it like $5.
Yes.
And $35 each.
That would be an unbelievably good deal. If you could find them for that, it would be fantastic. It's very hard to find, and if you do see them like on Craigslist or something like that, you can't trust that they really are that, because who would sell them for that? I mean, just the feed alone. And I was at a pet store, and I looked,
Because I wanted to see if they had these, because I was holding a chicken class at my house. And I had bought mine from our local pet store and they were a good buy. So I went there to see if they had them. And of course they didn't. But I looked at the price of their feed, $64 for a 40-pound bag. Who can live that way? I mean, it's insane. I go, that's crazy. So, I mean, to raise up a chick, there's no way you're going to be able to find one that's cheap. And if they're selling them to you for like $40, it's probably an old bird and they're just telling you, oh yeah, it's 5 months. And they sell it to you in the spring and it'll lay. And then surprise, yeah. So no more eggs come September. An old hen is about 3 years old.
How long do they stay?
They live between 4 and 5 years. The oldest one lived till 10, but generally about 4 or 5 years. Yeah, if they survive. But people worry about predators. It is a reality, and everybody has lost some. But we get better as we go along and find little tricks and ways of doing it. I love your idea of the chicken tractor. That's a great idea.
Also, the turkey.
Yeah, she said turkeys also. Well,
My neighbor was worried about losing bird also, so they got 2 big turkeys. And they raised this chick with the chicken. Every time a hawk flies overhead, turkeys run up to the chickens and shove them under a tree.
just act like a rooster. That's what the roosters do too. It's amazing.
yeah, I haven't heard that. That's so interesting.
But yeah, turkeys make great our protectors and also there's some breeds of chickens that are just soft.
Yeah, big, huge chickens. Jersey Giants, we got some big old chickens. Yes.
My first experience
Uh-huh.
with chickens was a giant rooster.
Oh, was it mean?
It was me. My wife sent me out with a bucket of feed, which is how you.
Oh, great.
I walked in and this rooster came in, he took a chunk out of me.
Yes. Oh, I had them like that. I had them like that. There, I go, I do not want this chicken here ever because I don't want to be afraid to go in my own coop. It's the thing would attack you and they're sneaky. They wait until your back is turned and then they jump on you. They're just horrible. That's why I said it's so good to have nice ones, huh?
He went, my cousin got the answer. He went down an axe. No. And he held it by the blade. He went up, the chicken came and he whacked the side of the chicken. He chased her right across the coop. And he gave me the I sharp it. No. And I spent the afternoon doing that. And after that, when I'd walk in, Ruth would just get far enough away.
It knew.
At 6 feet, and he'd sit there and he'd be lunging at me, and I just laugh at him.
Oh, that's amazing. And it knew.
No, nobody believes that there's just one section.
Yeah,
But that rooster was,
I knew. Yeah, amazing.
oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes, another question. Well, you like your coop to make it foolproof safe. It will probably be never totally foolproof safe, but there are things you can do to it that will help a lot. You can put cloth on it, which is the really thin, really tiny little. They're real small and it's heavy duty. That will keep it safe. Like I said, put your whatever they do underneath the ground, so when they try and dig it, they won't be able to. Put some rocks around the bottom of the coop. All those things help. And then, like, I've had places where they've come and they've grabbed certain ones that are out by the perches. So by the edge of the perches on the chicken wire part, I put extra stuff on there. So you just keep fortifying, and then pretty soon you're good. But it unfortunately takes some depths in between. Yes. I read, let's see, when was my last bunch? I think the last bunch I raised was from October. I have more coming in June. So I try and keep them coming periodically, so that I always have fresh hens that are going to be kicking in and laying. Yes. Oh, they don't. Once that chicken lays that color egg, it's always going to lay that color egg. So if it lays like a dark green egg, it's always going to lay that same color dark green egg. If it lays like a really light blue, it's always going to lay a really light blue. And it's just in their body, the white eggs don't get any dye spread on them. It comes down, the egg is twirling down the path to come on out. And at the last thing, there's a dye that's sprayed on them from their bodies in the color of the egg. It's amazing. And the white eggs don't have any color, but the brown, it's like a brown dye, and the other is blue dye or a green dye that is actually sprayed on them. Yes.
Do you have one more question? And we're gonna get
Very slowly with a lot of supervision. Chances are it's going to work. I'm going to see. Yeah, not there yet.
It's called apple bitter. You buy it at the store.
It's sprayed on us.
So we get on the hand and you let your hand go, yeah.
And sprayed on the chicken too.
Let's spray it on the chicken too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
And but it's a dog, it looks like my tickets, he cited around it.
Yeah.
And they had to know how to slap it, and never did.
Really? Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Really? Oh, I've never heard that. I don't have dogs, so interesting. Yeah.
So rats, even though I had this ingenious way to do.
Yep.
You know, I get this, you know, the other thing to make it. That's figuring out how to get in there. And I got a dead rat. I take it by the tail, I put it, you know, the lid on top of it. That's when I look at, that's as long as I have this.
I'll tell you, you know, animals are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. That's why one thing I found with the chickens, I go, you know, you would think they talk about bird brains, but really they have personalities. They respond to you. They know their names. They know certain words. They learn up to 25 different words. So I know they know dinner and they know water and stuff like this. But they know, you know, they recognize faces. And they do have different personalities. So it's really quite interesting. And you never know what animals really are thinking or responding to. So, yeah, it certainly could be. Yes.
We have neighbors with a farm,
That's what they were saying too. I haven't heard that ever.
yeah, something too.
Oh, you tie it onto them? My. Yes. Oh, you're welcome. Hopefully you'll be brave enough. Remember, I'm your mentor for life. Yes.
We're waiting to quiet down. I want to hear this marvelous. That's it.
Well, they say a crow collar will work.
No,
They, perfectly.
I think it's a personal choice. I wouldn't because I wouldn't want to spend the money to have it surgically removed. I'd rather just not have a rooster. But I've had really good luck with my roosters, and I don't know if it's the fact that they just are nice breeds. They're from a more docile breed. So I have which is probably it. I have a Delaware rooster, which a Delaware chicken is a docile breed. And I have a salmon favorel rooster, and that's a docile breed. And then I have a Leghorn rooster who came as was a surprise, I mean, an extra one that was a rooster in there. Yes.
Right. But those are the things that you should watch out for. Avocado, they say it's the pit. I've heard both, so I just don't feed them avocado. And the pit is bad for it. The apple seeds have arsenic in them. And then the tomato leaves, the tomatoes are fine, but the tomato leaves are bad for them. Yeah, isn't that interesting?
That's not enough arsenic in.
That's what I think too. Well, and our horses do too, and it doesn't bother them. They don't usually like the seeds. Yes. Yeah. Since we're all growers using chicken manure as fertilizer, they call it black gold, but it's very, very high in nitrogen. So you have to compost it, let it sit probably for you.
It's so hot. When it comes out, you gotta cool down.
Yeah. So it works great if you mix it with other things. You don't want to use it just straight, but it is an excellent fertilizer, very high in nitrogen. Mix it, compost it.
You don't need roosters to get eggs.
Right. I keep a few roosters mainly for protection and for order in the coop. But not necessary to have them to lay eggs at all. Yes.
You know, chicken, my neighbors are going to go on, and that's, you know,
Mm-hmm. Well, you wouldn't have to worry if you don't have roosters. Mhm.
if you have a rooster,
If you have a rooster, you can get fertilized, but unless you raise the temperature and humidity, the fertility goes away. So they're not really fertile until they get to that second stage.
Yes. Oh, that's how I think too. And why do I want to risk getting roosters? But I self-fertilize and I have a 60% hatch rate. So there are people who really enjoy raising them and enjoy the whole incubation process. So I've got like schools and things like this who, which I think is great. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And I wish we'd do more of that kind of thing in our schools to really kind of show people where food comes from. Yeah, I think so too.
It's called brooding.
they will do.
Oh, yes.
I have brooders. And this last time in October was the best time yet. I guess it wasn't in October. Or was it in June? I had broody hens and I hate broody hens. They're terrible because what they do is their bodies are telling them hormonally that I need to hatch eggs. And so they will sit in the nest. They'll sit on other people's eggs. They'll sit on no eggs and they'll just sit there and they'll just like be in a trance. Like, they make this weird little kind of snorty sound and they just stay there all day long. In fact, you have to take them down to give them water and food because they are so intent on brooding. Now you can break them of that. So what you do is you take them, you put them in a separate cage and they're so upset, but you do it for 3 days. You keep them away from the nesting box and usually it will break them of the brooding. But sometimes they're really invested in it. And after a while, they'll go back and do it some more. And then they'll tell them because they're doing it, other hens will do it. So I had like 8 of them doing this and I'm going, this is horrible. And so I got chicks and I had 3 of them that were brooding. And I go, well, I'm going to see if they'll take the chicks. So here come the chicks. I put them in the box that night and I had left a couple of eggs underneath these hens. And so that night I went and I stuck a chick under each one to see if they would make it live. In the morning, they were happy. They had these chicks. Yeah. And so surprise, they got 50 of them. And so, oh, it's amazing. They just multiplied and here's your 50 chicks. They did great with them. So I go, if I have broody hens, chicks, they take them and it's wonderful. They raised them and it was really good too. They raised them real well. They were great. Oh, they protect them. Oh yeah. From the other hens, and there were so many of them. I go, 50 hens for these poor 3 chickens. They didn't care. They were climbing on them. They were spread out like super far to try and guide them. It was a kick. Yes.
One of my aunt's neighbors had broody hens, and she used them to raise ducks.
Oh, yeah, they could. They're so happy. Yes,
Raise duck eggs.
they will.
You can't buy duck chicks. Well, you can, I guess now.
They have them at Tractor Supply, I think.
Back then,
Uh-huh.
1950,
Oh, yeah. Hard to get.
so the people would want,
Uh-huh.
and then so neighbor would order like 500 eggs.
And put them under chickens.
Both were little fat chickens. Those regular brooding hens.
Yes. Oh, well, I was tickled because I get so frustrated with those broody hens because no production. For me, that's important. No production. You're just eating the food and wasting the space in the box, hogging the space and not making any eggs. So it's really interesting. They do that. They brood. Any other questions? Yes.
Pardon? Are you able to have to?
And San Diego, yes, you can have chickens.
All roosters.
No roosters, just hens. And you can have quite a few of them. You need to look on the regs. In Chula Vista, I know, 6 hens are only. The only place in San Diego County that doesn't allow chickens is Coronado. So maybe, yeah. Let's together there.
Very enjoyable.
Good. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Remember, I am your mentor for life. I'm hoping that you will try, if you haven't raised chickens, that you will try and raise chickens because I think it's just a wonderful thing to do. I think it's really great to get back to this. I think it helps the environment. And I think it's just a really positive thing to do. I'm hoping that some of these counties or cities will realize that really this makes such good sense for the environment in terms of waste that they would start doing this because you're getting rid of all your good food, all the wasted food that would go to waste, they can eat. They do wonderful manure that comes out of them and improves the soil. I just think it's such a good, positive thing. And they are very resilient, easy to raise. So I'm hoping that those of you who haven't raised them will take the step, jump and do it. And those of you who have raised them and don't have them now will be inspired to do it again because it is very enjoyable. So thank you so much. I really appreciate
It's really good.